So you can call me the doctor, or you can call me Raphael. But anyway, so, and I travel around a lot. Sometimes I go places where people have never been before, where there have been no people at all. So, I'm in one of those places right now. So anyway, I'm going to give you a little snippet of history that I will probably benefit from in the future when I need it, or in the past when I need it. It's all circular, you know. So, what happened was, after I kicked things into motion during World War One. You know, somebody had to do something. I mean, they were all building up these big stockpiles of stuff. And anyway, so I kicked it off. Because they had to do something quick, because time was of the essence. Even though time doesn't really matter in the long run. So what happened was, I started something that I refer to as the ministry. It's not a church. And it's not a government. It extends beyond governments. Actually, extends beyond worlds. But anyway, I started it at the request of my boss, the Lord, that is the chief operating officer of the universe, of all universes, really. And so, the ministry, which came to exist, mostly through the instrumentality of Stalin, no less. See, Stalin was in dire straits. He was about to be eaten up by Hitler's army, you know. And so I went to his hideout in the woods. He wasn't in the city, he was in the woods, surrounded by, well, a fairly sizable contingent of Russian soldiers, Red Army people, and sort of hiding there. And the Russian generals, I mean the Soviet generals, knew where he was. And they were considering the possibility of liquidating him because he was an ineffective leader, and they feared their own safety, and they didn't want to be tortured by the Gestapo and the SS and Hitler. So they were considering the possibility of liquidating Stalin and replacing him with somebody among their own cadre. So I went to Stalin. I came up to him and I says, you know, I was in his bedchamber, no less. How'd they get there? I have ways. I went in there and I said, Stalin. I think I called him by his first name for some reason. You know, and I'm speaking Russian, which I don't speak anymore because I forgot. But I'd probably recapture it someday. I probably will. Probably have to. But anyway, so I kick him out of the bed. Literally, I just put my foot to his rump and pushed him right out of the bed. He jumps up, looks for his gun. Of course, I've taken the gun away. And he says in Russian, "Who the hell are you, God damn it? And I'm going to kill you. You can't do that to me." Or, you know, just start blurting out a bunch of vile conversation. So at that point, I do pick up the gun and I hold it to his head and I says, "Comrade Stalin, don't you realize you're in terrible danger? The Hitler's armies are succeeding. They are doing what they're been told to do. They are conquering the world, and they're going to eat you up. And your own generals are going to liquidate you. They have already begun the discussions, and someone has actually formulated a document to cover their ass. They consider you an ineffective leader, a revisionist, someone who needs gone, you'll be gone in a fortnight if you're not doing exactly what I tell you to do right now. So I push the gun away from his head just slightly. I say, now, listen. Pop! He screams, the pain of the sound. Can't hear. But then I turn his head and I say, listen, Stalin. Listen, my dear. If you do exactly what I say, you will live, and you will be heroic, and you will be the envy of the world. Make your generals attack Hitler immediately. Order them immediately to counterattack. Don't tell them to plan, just to tell them to do it. And in addition to that, I have this, this sizable document in my briefcase. So I pull it out and I says, now listen, this is all in Russian. There's also an English copy. I want you to sign every fucking page of it. And don't look at it, just sign it and date it. And then I'd have you do it in blood, but unfortunately, you look like a bloodless fish right now. So I said, if you do that for me, then I will leave you in peace, and I guarantee you that you will live, you will prosper, you will be the envy of the world, and everyone will make statues to you every day. And they will kiss your ass every fucking day. And you'll be able to hump all the young honeys and all the young men and do anything else you want, as long as you do exactly what I say. At this point, Stalin does something interesting. He says, who the hell are you? And at that point, I have to reveal myself. I say, well, some call me the doctor. But, in reality, I'm the devil. He looks at me with wild eyes. He says, you are the devil? I said, yes, I am the devil. Incarnate. That means in the flesh. And if you don't do exactly what I say, I'm recording this. There are film cameras everywhere, and they're recording this. And if you do not do what I say, I will take that footage, that film, to your rivals amongst the Russian general staff. And I will say, here, Comrade Stalin was conspiring with a foreign woman who said she was the devil. And they will kill you immediately. In fact, they'll do more than that. They'll slice you up in little pieces and feed you to the wolves. The wolves. Dogs. Well, something. So he says, well, how do I know that you're not tricking me? You're the devil. How do I know you haven't stolen my soul? And I says, Comrade Stalin, your soul is not the issue. Who says you have a soul? I mean, seriously, you think you have a soul? So at that point he says, okay, I give up. I surrender. And he begins to sign the document. He gets done. I give him a big sloppy kiss, which he's repulsed by. He starts grabbing for his gun again, and I take the gun and I pistol whip him and knock him out. Knock him right on his head. And he falls down like a sack of potatoes, and I scream in a female voice, which I can do. Help, 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 help! Comrade Stalin is passed out! And then I disappear with the document. The document, of course, establishes the ministry, or what we call the ministry. The ministry is designed to improve the human race. Not through miraculous means, but through evolution. And so, the human race is improved. But first, we had to get more power. Not electricity, more political power, more economic power. So what Comrade Stalin's document did, in addition to establishing a ministry, it established a special liaison with the Russian military, the Soviet military. And in 1947, January 1947, the Russian military, having acquired a large bomber that they patterned on U.S. design, they stole the plans, and also the secrets and, of course, the design and, of course, the manufacture of atomic weapons, several of them, quite a few of them, and, more importantly, a device to allow such big bombers to fly over the ocean and land and then take off again through rocket-assisted propulsion. So, this squadron of bombers laden with nuclear eggs flew in 1947 in January toward the U.S. from the Virgin Islands. They had first been assembled down in and around Cuba, but not in Cuba, but around there. They flew all the way up the East Coast. Then they made a right turn and flew all the way down the East Coast, signaling constantly that they were in distress. Well, the U.S. Launched their few, escorts and so forth, Mustangs, aircraft, and they tracked them with radar as best they could. And at some point, this is during the Truman administration, the Russians signaled they were ready, and they signaled with one single code word: pile driver. And at that point, the Russian ambassador, the Soviet ambassador to the U.S., went to the White House, knocked on the White House door, so to speak, asked to see President Truman immediately because it was urgent. It was related to the military aircraft that were approaching the U.S. soil. And this alarmed everyone. They immediately ushered the Soviet ambassador into the White House, asked him to explain himself, said, "I can only explain myself to the most high-ranking official you have on hand." So the Secretary of State at that time went to the Soviet ambassador and says, "Tell me what you want." And the Soviet ambassador says, "We want the United States to surrender unconditionally." And so the American Secretary of State says, "You're fucking kidding." And then, of course, at that point, the Soviets said, "What time is it?" The Soviet ambassador said, "What time is it?" And the ambassador, the American Secretary of State, looked at his watch. He said, "It's 11:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time." Okay, and then the Soviet ambassador said, "Let's wait 5 minutes, and then we'll discuss it further." So, at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there was a call from the duty officer, and the duty officer says, "There has been a nuclear detonation on U.S. soil around Louisiana, actually in the Ozarks. It is a small detonation, but it is definitely thermonuclear, or now nuclear in origin. Lights are out all over the region due to the EMP." This is all foreign conversation. I mean, this is just strange terms to the Secretary of State. But the Secretary of State gets the gist. He thinks, well, they can do what they want to do because they obviously made this attack happen. So the Secretary of State went to U.S. President, said the Soviets have developed a secret weapon to deliver nuclear weapons to our soil undetected. And they have already attacked us. It is an act of war. But they say they will annihilate us because they already have weapons very near most of our major cities on the East Coast. And they say, if you want us to prove it, we'll do it again in 30 minutes. All right, so this is 12:15 a.m. at 12:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the American president, Truman, told the Soviet ambassador, "Yes, we believe we can accommodate you." All right. So at that point, the Soviet ambassador says, "Let me call the embassy." He calls the embassy. He gives another single word: windfall. At that point, the attack is stopped or held, and then after verification that the Soviets have weapons on site, the United States surrenders unconditionally the Soviet Union in the winter of 1947. So help me. As it is as truthful as I can possibly be at this point. So we became part and parcel of the Soviet Empire. And but more importantly, the Soviet Empire was part and parcel of the ministry. And who made the ministry? I did. So isn't that interesting? Anyway, today's date is, of course, July 28th, 2012. The last year of the grand planet Earth. There will be no more years after this. Next year will be year 0. I guarantee it. You can take my word. That's Satan.